Okay, so for today's science, you're going to be learning all about the human life cycle, and this relates to what we learned about last week, where we learned that animals, including humans, have offspring and that they grow into adults, okay? What actually is a cycle? Think about the word. What does the cycle actually mean? There's some examples on the screen now. And I want you to pause the video and have a chat about what a cycle is. Okay, off you go. So the word cycle makes us think that things go round and round. Wheels on a bike or a scooter or a steering wheel. That's exactly like what a life cycle does. So a cycle of life is just where life continues to go round and round. So a life cycle describes the life of a living being, so from when it's born to when it grows up, and it looks at all the changes that take place during this time. So what I'd like you to do now is I'm going to put a 30-second timer on, and I want you to have a little chat with whoever's with you, or you can have a little think on your own about all the different stages of being a human, okay? Now there's a little hint on the screen at the moment, which is one of the cycles of life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that timer on now, and I want you to either have a think or have a chat about all the different stages of being a human. Off you go. There we go, your time is up. Okay, so you should have thought about all of the different stages of life during the human life cycle. The first stage that you can see of life is a baby. So if you got that one right, well done. So the first stage is a baby, then we move into our toddler stage, then child phase, teenage, then we go into adult and adults, but at the older stage of our lives, okay? So when you're an adult, you're a young adult or you are an older adult, okay? Or elderly. Okay, so as a baby, you start your life as a baby, don't you? So you're either inside your mummy's tummy as a baby, growing and feeding from your mother inside, or as well, when you are born, you're also a baby at that point. And during this phase, you need lots of care and lots of attention from others, don't you? So, because you need to be fed, you also need to be looked after because you can't do things on your own. So you don't have much independence when you're a baby. So your adults or your parents will look after you and care for you. And babies actually don't eat until they are 6 months old. So they don't eat normal food, until they're 6 months old. They only drink milk. But it isn't the type of milk that you will put in your cup of tea or put on your cereal. It's a different kind of milk that has all of the nutrients and all of the minerals inside to help babies to grow and develop into health, to keep them healthy and to keep them alive. Okay, babies at this stage also need lots and lots of sleep. So they don't usually sleep all the way through the night, but they will often sleep through the day as well. And this is because babies need lots and lots of sleep because they're growing. So the sleep helps them to grow and helps them to develop. Okay. And also during this phase, babies can't talk either. So when there is something wrong, what they will often do is they'll often cry to get the attention of the adults or their parents. And this will signify that they need something, okay? So they'll let people know what they want and communicate with others by crying, okay? Now, this part of the presentation is a little bit of fun, so if you'd like to, you can pretend that you're holding a baby. Show how you would carry the baby to keep it safe. Okay, so you can go ahead, pause the video and have a little go at doing that now. Okay, so the next phase of a human life after a baby is the toddler phase. And for some of you that don't know, I actually have a little toddler at home at the moment. I don't know if you've heard her in some of the videos shouting downstairs, oh, the joys of home learning, hey? So just like the name suggests, the toddling stage is when children are starting to toddle. So they might be a bit wobbly when they're walking. They might also fall over quite often because they're just learning how to balance and how to walk independently from their parents. Okay, because before this stage, they do start to use their legs and they do start to walk around. However, they do that by holding on to somebody else. Okay, so by the toddler phase, they're starting to become a little bit more independent and they're walking on their own. They are learning to talk, they're learning to feed themselves. And also during this phase as well, they will start to grow their teeth. Okay, so they'll do lots of teething during this phase and the teeth will all come in. And this is during the ages of 1 to 3. Okay, so when you're age 1 to 3, that will mean that you're at the toddler phase of your life. Okay. Now, they also, although they are becoming a little bit more independent, they still need lots and lots of help and support from their grown-ups. So they're not quite ready to be independent yet, but they are starting to develop independence, but they still need lots of support from their adults as well. Okay. Because adults will help them to do things like share with others, they'll teach them new words, and all kinds of things like that. Okay, so another little try it. What we would like you to do for this try it, we would like you to stand up and pretend to be a toddler. So go back to your toddler days. You can do some wobbly walking around the room, but do try not to fall over. Okay, off you go. Right, the next phase of life is the child phase. So let me just click on that now. Now, the child phase is the phase that all of you are at the moment. So at this stage, you're learning to be even more independent. So each time you're developing a little bit more independence as you grow up, okay? So that's an important factor in the human life cycle, because you start at each stage, you're developing a little bit more independence, okay? Now, what we would like you to do for this one is we would like you to talk about or think about what you can do now that you used to need help with, okay? So this might be when you were a toddler, you might have needed help to zip up your coat or do your buttons, but now you're a child, you don't need help with those things. You might have needed help with reading when you're in reception, but now you don't because you're a little bit more independent, okay? So have a little think at the things that you can now do on your own that you maybe wasn't able to do when you were a toddler. This might even be like pouring your drink or cutting up your own food, all kinds of things like that. So go ahead and have a little chat or a little think now about what you can do on your own now that you used to need help with, okay? Now we're moving on to the next stage of life, which is the teenage stage. Now, some of you may have some teenagers in your life. You might have cousins that are teenagers. You might even have siblings that are teenagers, or even just family friends. So this is the stage that they are at, okay? In the next phase of life that you will go into after being a child. So this is usually from the ages of 13 to 19. So you've still got a little while yet before you turn into a teenager. And teenagers are getting ready to become adults, okay? So this means that they are getting even more independence, okay? Now, teenagers' bodies change a lot during this stage of life. They can get taller and they start to look more like adults. And the reason for these changes are because of things called hormones. So if you've got a big brother that's a teenager, you might see that he's looking a little bit more like an adult. He might have grown facial hair and all kinds of things like that. And these changes are taking place because of hormones. Now, because of all these changes that are happening inside the teenagers' bodies, and because they're growing so quickly, they might need lots of sleep for a very long time. So you might find them sleeping in quite a lot, so they might not get up in the mornings, they might sleep in a little bit later into the afternoon, and this is just because their bodies are growing, okay? And also they might be a bit grumpy at times, and again, this is just because they're growing so quickly and they're using up lots and lots of energy, so they might be a bit grumpy because they've not had much sleep, okay? Or they might be a bit tired. Right, so this is your opportunity now to talk about whether you know any teenagers, and I want you to think about what are they like, how are they different to you, okay? So off you go, you can go ahead and do that now. Okay, so the next two phases of life are both in the adult stage, okay? So here we are with the first lot of our adult stage and then the second lot of our adult stage. So we'll go for the first of all, and this is being an adult. So when you're an adult, it's called being a grown-up, okay? So there is lots of things that grown-ups can do, and during this phase, this is where lots of adults will get a job and they'll live on their own and be independent from their parents, okay? They may find a partner and choose to have a family, which then starts the human life cycle again. So during this stage, the adult phase, adults can have children at this stage and start that cycle again, because that's a really important aspect. The cycle always begins again, okay? And that is the survival of humans, because if we don't have any humans being born, then would humans still exist? No, they wouldn't, because if there was no humans born, then we wouldn't have any more human life, okay? So this stage is important because it's a stage where adults can have their own offspring, which means that the human life cycle can continue, okay? Right, that might be a little top tip for your chili challenge there, so make sure you are listening. If you want to rewind it, then you can. So again, this starts the human life cycle again because adults are able to have offspring, okay? So what job would you, this is to talk about a bit now, so you can pause video and have a little chat, or you can just think about what you would like to do when you are an adult, okay? So what job would you like to have? Would you like to have any children? Think about what you would like to become when you are an adult. Okay, then we move into the final stage of human life, which is old age or elderly. Now, old age is the later stage of being an adult, okay? And during this stage, older people retire, which means that they stop working and they have plenty of time to enjoy things in life that they do by themselves, or they might find new hobbies or spend extra time with the grandchildren. It's where life is just that little bit easier and they get to enjoy the things that they've always liked to do, or maybe even find something new to do. Okay, so the things that you'll notice physically about older age is some people have grey or white hair, and they might move that little bit more slowly because their joints and their muscles, they get a little bit achy because they've been working for all of those years helping to support the body, and during the old age they just move a little bit more slowly, and their joints and muscles might not be work as well as what they used to, so they do start to ache a little bit more easily. Older people's eyes as well might not work so well, so they might need some glasses for reading or seeing far away, because can you imagine your eyes working for lots and lots of years? They would get a little bit tired, wouldn't they? So that's why in the older age you might see lots of people wearing glasses, okay? Right, let's have a little talk about it. So when you are older, what hobbies would you like to try? So think about when you're retired, which kind of hobbies would you like to do? Okay, that's a little opportunity for you to stop and have a chat or have a think. Worksheet that you're going to be completing. Don't worry if you don't have the worksheet at home. You can always just write this out in your books or on a spare piece of paper. It doesn't really matter. And what you are going to be doing is you are going to be writing about the human life cycle. So first of all, you're going to describe what a life cycle actually is. And then you're going to go down and have a little write about all the different stages of life. So you might start by using, first, I was a baby, and then tell me all about what happened when you were a baby, okay? So I want you to tell me about all the things that we've discussed. So when I was a baby, I needed help from my parents. I would be fed my milk, and I would cry if I needed the attention of others, or I would cry to communicate my needs to others, okay? So you can go ahead and then you can write all about the different phases of life. So I want you to try to include as much information as we've discussed in each one of these little sections, and you can go through each of those, okay? And then down at the bottom is your chili challenge, and it says, which part of the life cycle do you think is the most important? So you've just got to explain one of the stages that you think was the most important, and you've got to tell me why you think that was important. You can look at old photographs of yourself and compare. So you might want to include in yours some little pictures maybe of when you were a baby, when you were a toddler, and what you're like now. Or even you can look at pictures of your adults. So you might want to look at a picture of your grandma or your nana or granddad. You could also look at pictures of your mum and dad and have a look at the different stages of life for them, and these things that you can discuss as you're writing, okay? I hope that makes sense for you, and I hope you enjoy this activity. It's a bit of a nice one, and you can really get involved and have a little think about what happens during the human life cycle. Okay, so once you've done your written science work, I just thought that I'd put this little activity in just for a bit of fun as well. Please feel free to do it. Now, what I was thinking that we could do is, I was thinking that we could split this face in half. And what I would like you to do is, on one side, you can draw yourself now, okay? So on one side, draw what you look like now. So you might want to use a mirror, and you can really, really draw all your features and what you look like as a child, okay? And then what I want you to do on the other side, on the other half of the picture, I want you to think about what you might look like as in your older age, okay? So in a couple of, well, not in a couple of years, in quite a few years later, I want you to draw what you might look like as an older adult, okay? So elderly, as an elderly person. And I think this would be quite a fun activity for you to do, and it'd really help you to find out about the features of somebody who's in the elderly stage of their life. So you could look at some images on Google and really think about what you might look like when you are elderly, okay? Right, bye. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.